Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Gabes here. This is the quick guide for heroic Ji-Kun. As usual, if you want the full guide with a lot more detail, click on the annotation on screen. Otherwise, let's get started with the quick walkthrough. For your raid composition, you'll want 2 tanks and 2 to 3 healers, pretty standard. The number of healers you need just depends on the strength of one of your healers to solo heal the main platform or not during Quills. If you have a healer that's pretty strong, that can stay on the platform full time, then you just need 2 healers in total, 1 other healer to deal with the other stuff. Otherwise, 3 healers is perfectly fine. One of your healers will generally not be doing anything except dealing with the nests. So that means 1 or 2 other healers are dealing with the main platform. So just like in normal, the basic requirement is that you handle the nests properly during this encounter. So I'm not going to go into very much detail at all, but if you click on the annotation there, you can link to the animated section for the full guide that talks about the nest management in complete detail if you want that. That said, the basic idea is you'll want approximately 3 players, 2 DPS and a healer, to handle the majority of the nests, while the rest of your raid deals with the boss. So I'm the healer for that group, and then we have 2 melee DPS generally that will come with me, and together the 3 of us can handle the majority of the nests. The exception is that on Heroic, there are a few nests that will spawn Guardian adds in addition to the normal eggs that need to be tanked in some way. So you can use an actual tank, one of the 2 that's on the boss normally, or you can use a DPS player that has strong cooldowns that will allow them to tank long enough for the Guardian to die. So here you can see the 4th nest, the first one on the top, is where a Guardian spawns. And one of our tanks, our Paladin tank, flies up here while another DPS and myself come up here to help kill it off. Now if you're just doing Heroic Ji-Kun for the first time, you'll want 3 other players besides the tank to have enough DPS to kill this stuff before it hatches. So you'd have 4 players up here total. This requires that if you use a tank that's on the boss, that they get feathers from the lower nests at some point so they can fly up top. So our Paladin tank, he goes down in the first nest at the start of the fight and gets a feather there, and then he's able to fly throughout the rest of the fight when he needs to. Otherwise, just learn to the basic rotation of when the Guardians will spawn, and then you should be good from that point forward. Now, one thing you can do to really help your entire raid out is to maximize your use of feather when it comes to feed young. So right there you saw I clicked my feather because I had an extra charge, so that when feed young is cast by Ji-Kun on the main platform, I'm able to fly up and touch one of the feed globules. This will give you the nutrient buff that lasts 30 seconds and increases your damage and healing output. So try to distribute the extra feathers you have from the bottom nests among your raid members that don't have to actually use them to move between nests. And any extras that you can get are then usable on Feed Young for that extra damage boost. So for example, in our case, we have an extra DPS that goes down on green, plus we have our Shaman DPS that's normally in the nest group, but sometimes he doesn't need to go to nests, so he can stay and use Feed Young buffs. We also have 2 to 3 completely different players that go down for the second bottom nest that also get feather charges that they can use. On Heroic, the feathers will give you 3 stacks of the flight buff, but you can have a maximum of 4. So if you have at least 1 stack and then you pick up a new feather, you will gain 4 stacks in total. Now, moving between nests is of course very important. So usually the nest group that you assign, usually 3 players, will just use their feathers to move between nests. However, the bottom nests can be tricky to get to for players without feathers. So this green one, which is the 3rd bottom nest, for example, to get onto this nest, because it's so close to the platform, you can see here, you actually get on the edge just above the nest and then turn around so your back is facing the nest and backpedal off of the platform. This will ensure that you always fall right on it. Similarly, the first nest in the bottom, at the very start of the fight, you can just walk right off facing forward and land on it fine. But the second bottom nest, you need some form of movement increase to reach it without a feather. So if you have a sprint or some form of raid-wide sprint, something that increases your movement speed, then you can use that and then just run straight off to get to the second nest. All the top nests, of course, require flying up, so that's just pretty much using the feathers, but it's important to note how you actually need to move to successfully land on the bottom nests. Tanking for this fight is pretty standard fare, but it's important that your tanks try to use small or minor cooldowns when Ji-Kun uses Talon Rake on the tank. Depending on how quickly your other tank is able to go up to handle a guardian spawn on a nest, the previous tank may need to deal with a number of Talon Rake applications before the other tank can take over on Ji-Kun again. So it's important that you use some form of cooldown when that goes off. It's got a short cast time, so you can react to it if you're ready when it's about to be cast. The last thing worth noting is the timing of quills can be somewhat important. You'll get used to the pattern after a few attempts, really, but frequently quills will go out while the nest group is dealing with one of their nests or transitioning between one nest and the next. And if you're moving or flying and quills is happening, chances are you'll die without a cooldown. So it's important that your healer, especially on those nests, get used to the timing and inform the other players on the nests to either stay where they are until quills is mostly complete, or to use some form of cooldown if you're moving between them. And that pretty much covers everything for the quick guide to Heroic Ji-Kun. Again, we're just kind of going over the basics here. So most of it is pretty standard from normal. It's just about the management of nests and dealing with the guardians that are new to the encounter. Now, one thing you can do that I didn't really talk about, but you see here in the video, is if your damage on your raid is high, which is quite possible these days, you can ignore a lot of the nests and focus on killing the boss and just healing through the extra damage. So if you do this method, chances are you'll want to kill the first 4 nests like normal, so that you kill the second guardian that spawns, and then you have quite a while until the next guardian would appear. So you can just keep all your raid on the main platform from that point forward and kill the boss. Anyway, that is Heroic Ji-Kun's quick guide. Good luck, and thanks for watching.